There's a moment, quiet, invisible, when your mind betrays you. One thought slips in, and suddenly your peace is gone. A stranger's comment rewrites your worth. A single setback erases months of progress. You replay words that can't be unsaid, chase outcomes you can't control, and call it living. But you're not living, you're reacting. Every emotion you feel, every storm that breaks inside you, is proof that the world still owns you. You think strength means not caring, but numbness isn't power. Real strength begins the moment you stop fighting the outside world and start mastering the war within. Because when you do, something shifts, insults lose their sting, failure loses its poison, and chaos can no longer touch your mind. That's when you become truly untouchable. Stay with me until the end, and I'll show you how. They say every person fights a war the world will never see. But what if that war isn't out there? What if it's inside you? The voice that tells you you're not enough. The silence that grows louder each time you ignore it. The smile you wear that hides everything you don't want to face. Most people think they'll break from pressure, from failure, from loss. But the truth is, we don't break because of what happens to us. We break because of what we tell ourselves about it, the stories we repeat until they become prisons. There was a time I thought my mind was my enemy, until I realized it was just a mirror reflecting what I refused to heal. So let me ask you this. What if the pain you're running from is the very thing trying to save you? What if you've never been broken, only buried beneath your own doubt? Stay with me. Because once you see what's been hidden beneath your thoughts, you'll never see yourself the same way again. The world teaches you that if you work hard, play fair, and stay kind, life will reward you. But life doesn't operate on fairness. It operates on reality. Expecting it to be fair is like expecting fire not to burn. It doesn't matter how kind you are to it, it burns anyway. The Stoics understood this long before self-help existed. They taught that fortune falls with equal weight on the good and the bad. Once you stop demanding fairness, you stop suffering over its absence. I learned this after losing a promotion I'd earned, or thought I had. 12 years of loyalty, perfect reviews, mentoring others. The job went to someone with the right connection. For months, bitterness consumed me. I told myself it wasn't right, that I deserved better. But one morning, while rereading Aurelius, I realized something devastating. I was arguing with reality, and reality doesn't negotiate. So I stopped asking, why me? And started asking, what now? The shift was instant. I redirected all that wasted anger into something within my control, developing myself, not defending my ego. Within a year, I had a better position elsewhere. The universe hadn't owed me fairness, but it had offered me a lesson. The more you fight what is, the more you suffer. Then came the second truth, the one that shatters most illusions. No one is coming to save you. We wait for help that never arrives, from parents, from partners, from bosses, from fate. We tell ourselves that when the timing is right, when things calm down, when we're finally ready, we'll act. But readiness is an illusion. There's no perfect moment, no savior hidden behind the curtain of time. Epictetus was born a slave, owned by another man, powerless by every external measure. Yet he became one of history's most influential philosophers because he refused to wait for freedom. He built it inside himself. Waiting is surrender disguised as patience. Every day you spend waiting for change is a day you're choosing comfort over courage. The Stoic path begins where excuses end. When you stop waiting, you start moving. And when you move, life moves with you. Here's the truth most people never face. Your suffering isn't created by events. It's created by your interpretation of them. The traffic jam, the criticism, the loss, none of it has meaning until your mind gives it one. You decide whether it's tragedy or training, punishment or preparation. I once worked with two colleagues who were laid off on the same day. One sank into despair, convinced life had betrayed him. The other treated it as a challenge and found a better role within weeks. The difference wasn't luck. It was perception. Epictetus wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." When you realize that, the world changes. You stop trying to fix everything outside you and start mastering the battlefield within. That's the real war, not against circumstances, but against the judgments you attach to them. Fear works the same way. We suffer through things that never happen. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He was right. Most of our pain is self-inflicted, rehearsed through endless what-ifs. For months, I once dreaded a conversation, a confrontation I thought would end a friendship. I replayed it 100 times, each version worse than the last. When it finally happened, it lasted 5 minutes. Calm, honest, liberating. All that suffering had been imaginary. The Stoic doesn't ignore fear, he dissects it. He asks, is this fear useful? Is it real, or am I torturing myself with fiction? If it's real, prepare. If it's imagined, release. The mind is a storyteller, and it loves drama. But the wise man edits the script before believing it. There are things in life you cannot change. The past, your age, the actions of others, the randomness of fate. You can fight them and lose, or you can use them and grow. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of fate. Not passive acceptance, but active transformation, turning what was meant to break you into something that builds you. My father-in-law was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 58. For a year, he was bitter, asking, "Why me?" Then he stopped asking. He began to adapt, to train his body differently, to focus on what remained instead of what was gone. He couldn't change the disease, but he could change the story. Over time, he became stronger in ways the illness couldn't touch, wiser, calmer, more alive. Marcus Aurelius said, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." That's amor fati, to turn pain into purpose, to use loss as fuel. Then there's death, the truth we spend our lives denying. But the Stoics didn't fear death. They used it as a compass. Memento mori, remember you will die, isn't morbid. It's clarifying. When you truly accept your mortality, priorities become simple. You stop wasting time on trivialities. You speak honestly, love fully, act urgently. A friend's father once said after a heart attack, "I just wasted 40 years waiting for later." Don't wait. Later is never guaranteed. The reminder of death isn't meant to frighten you. It's meant to wake you up. Every morning, you're given a new chance to live as if you understand how little time you have. Don't waste it being angry at the rain. Learn to dance in it. If you live for approval, you'll die from rejection. What others think of you isn't your business. It's their projection. The Stoics knew that reputation is external, character internal. You control one, never the other. My sister once spent 2 decades trying to please our mother, career, relationship, appearance, all chosen to earn approval. It never came. When she finally stopped performing and started living by her own values, her suffering ended, even though the relationship didn't change. That's freedom, when peace no longer depends on permission. Epictetus said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Growth often looks like rebellion to those still asleep. Let them misunderstand you. And then there's comfort, the silent enemy. Every time you choose ease over effort, you train fragility. Seneca practiced sleeping on hard floors, fasting, enduring cold, not out of masochism, but out of wisdom. He knew comfort makes you soft. Voluntary discomfort makes you strong. In 2008, my uncle lost everything in a financial crash. Years of luxury had weakened his resilience. When comfort disappeared, so did his composure. Only through rebuilding, Living small, working hard, starting again. Did he remember who he was? Growth requires discomfort. Resilience requires repetition. Every day you avoid hardship, you're rehearsing weakness. Every day you face it willingly, you're rehearsing strength. When you stop seeking comfort, you find clarity. When you stop performing for approval, you find peace. When you stop fighting reality, you find freedom. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, betrayal, and war, and still found serenity. Not because he controlled the chaos, but because he mastered himself within it. That's the lesson. You can't control the world, but you can build a mind the world cannot shake. If this journey reminded you of your own power, subscribe. And remember, your peace is built, not found. Every thought, every choice, every act of courage is a brick in the fortress you build within. Stay stoic. Stay unbreakable.